Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. This is episode number 14 of Roll20 Presents The Burning Wheel. Hello. Hello and welcome, everyone.
Hello.
How are we doing this fine morning? Is it snowing where you are, Blue Jay?
Is it snowing where you are? Why is it not snowing here?
It's not snowing here. I was just checking because I know you really like snow.
It is.
That was
just
mean.
Winding you up.
It is snowing here. I took a selfie outside when I had to go on an adventure, specifically so Blue Jay could see that it's inconvenient.
I
That was
saw
like,
Well, I mean, it's only inconvenient if you have to go outside.
I saw a video. I saw a video you posted, Elf, of what looked like a perilous journey. I'm glad
yeah, you saw the Instagram of the ghost truck.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you survived. I thought there was a chance we would not get to play with you again.
We were driving to the LARP site last weekend to like Saskatoon, and there's literally no visibility. It was fog, darkness, and snow freshly fallen, getting kicked up into the car from a truck in front of us. So we couldn't see anything. There were moments in time where it was just white all around the car, and we like slowed down and we're like, okay, the truck is like in front of us. We know this, so we'll just wait a little bit here. And then it clears up and the truck's like 100 miles in front of us. We're like, how did it get over there?
100 miles. They use miles in Canada?
You know what I mean? I just mean a large distance.
Yeah, 100 miles is a stand-in for any large amount of distance.
But yeah, the ghost truck adventure was particularly scary.
I feel like, I mean, you should thank your driver for making that like ob 3 driving test.
Yeah,
on what would otherwise be a say yes or roll dice situation.
yeah.
Yeah, I've made a few drives like that where it was like really rainy. I don't do a lot of driving in the snow, but really rainy, and that like you're so attentive to driving where you're just like nothing else is happening. Just I have to focus on not dying right now. Just got to get through this. Wait until the rain.
And it was like that for about 2 hours. Like that was 2 of our 6 or 7 hour journey.
Yeah, it's exhausting. So I'm glad. So was it worth the harrowing journey? Did you have a good life?
It was super worth it. My character is slowly becoming a vampire in that game. My innocent little wood fae.
Slowly becoming. So is this?
A vampire.
Does it take time to become a vampire?
Well, there are many ways in which one can have, but like, suffice it to say, my way is alchemical and slow.
Oh, I see.
But,
so it's not like get bitten by Tom Cruise.
So I have vampire powers, but I'm alive right now. Like I gotta drink blood, and I can get animals to do what I want, but I'm alive.
I also love
question.
Blade.
Quick question: what is the point of vampires if you don't get the sexy neck biting part? Like,
I mean, I didn't choose for this to happen. It's just the way it went. I got my favorite prompt from this weekend. And sorry, now I'm rambling. But my favorite prompt from this weekend was one of the shapers came out. My friend Tammy came out and like had a white headband on, which means she's out of game, and like leaned into my ear and went, "You feel really tired all of a sudden, like super, super tired. But you don't want to sleep in your bed, and you don't want to be here. No. It's too open. You need somewhere tight and dark and enclosed to sleep. Go and find that." And I was like, "Oh, good. All right, sweet. I don't know where I'm gonna find that." Found a set of like a little cubby or something, and just shoved myself in there in the fetal position and just took a nap for an hour. It's great. Super great.
Well, I for one support your quest in becoming the Daywalker.
Thank you.
I hope that Stephen Dorff doesn't cause you too much trouble. We've all seen Blade, right? Everyone in this chat.
Yeah.
You've seen
Yeah,
Blade.
it was filmed in Vancouver.
Blue Jay, have you seen the movie Blade?
I think I've seen references to it, but I don't know if I've ever.
So I know what we're doing this weekend. Forget Thor.
No, I want to see Thor.
So do I.
All right, double feature. Marvel's 2 best movies: the new Thor and
Blade and Thor.
Listen, Blade is great. Blade's a great movie.
Why aren't you Ash, Adam?
On the point of a random game design thing, Adam.
Yeah.
I always find it funny when one ability invalidates an entire encounter. And
Yeah.
that happened to me like a shit ton of times over this last weekend because I got an animal empathy aura. So, oh look, a pack of wolves is coming. Nope, they're going away. Get out of this town. We're friends, so go away.
Yeah, I think
I did that for like hours.
I think that's an interesting thing. I think that like the idea, because you see this in a lot of games. The like poof, I get to disappear from here. The like, I mean, we've got one in Nebula Jazz where if Sam doesn't like an NPC once a session, he can just eat them. That ability to say like, no, I'm not having, the scene is not having, it's the difficulty is something I don't want to engage with. I'm out. And I wonder about that because I think a lot of games have that ability to just say no. Like even Apocalypse World has the like, God, what was it? It's not a playbook anymore. The like operator guy that's able to just be like, nope, I'm leaving. I'm out.
Yeah, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a move. Yeah.
I mean, it was like, oh no, giant crabs that break people's weapons up. Nope, they're animals. Go away. Go away. I'm standing near you. You're my friend. We leave now. Encounter over. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, I guess it probably is different. I mean, I'm sure it's different in a LARP situation, but in tabletop, it can be tricky because for a lot of games, the GM will like build an encounter or spend time doing that, and then having a player that's just like, get out of here, encounter.
I think that's an interesting statement. Like when you say like for LARP, it's probably different, and I think you're right because the opposite is almost true in a LARP in that you are not adventurers going to places and experiencing things. Things are coming to your town and experiencing you. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like NPCs are more the PCs of a LARP game in terms of the general experience that we have with tabletop games.
They're structured very differently. Like even in like Vampire the Masquerade LARP, like even in Mind's Eye Theater, it was more like just get a bunch of people together and then they end up doing their thing, right? They just end up hanging out and talking and you don't really, the GM really is just there to help like mitigate or referee stuff. Yeah.
Well, and Vampire Lab happens during the least interesting
part of
the
Vampire,
Vampire's
which
lives.
is sitting around in Elysium for 4 hours and
Yes.
pretending you're important. Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, I can totally see the appeal of that. I can see the appeal of like just hanging out in a room pretending to be a vampire for a couple hours. Like I could see that being the game.
I've done it plenty.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've always said that Mind's Eye Theater was it's the best version of Vampire because it actually does the vampire thing. Yeah, the like angsty like sitting around and arguing with each other about being a vampire thing.
I think I have to strongly disagree because that sounds like you're not engaging with the part of LARP that is obviously going to be the most fun in my head.
The swords.
See, Vampire doesn't do that.
So Vampire, in Vampire, if you
Well,
want to
it
fight
gets
someone with a
something.
sword, you both have an index card with sword written on it,
Yeah.
and you describe how you're fighting each other with your sword.
See,
That's to prevent people from bringing actual. This was a thing to prevent people from bringing actual katana to their LARP, right? Like this is a safety procedure.
yeah, and the stuff that I do is classified as like boffer LARP, and it's where you have weapons that are good for hitting people with.
That's
Yeah,
the kind of
well,
LARP you want to get into, Dave.
It is really fun.
Yeah. I like that.
All right, I'm done rambling about LARP now. I'm
I
done.
mean, you don't have to be. That's okay. It's nice. We need warm up time.
It's over.
It's cool. Yeah.
Somebody else talk about their weekend.
I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting thing. Blue Jay, you started a new role playing thing this week, did you not?
I did. Yes.
How is that going? Tell us about that.
We've only done one session so far. It's the Divinity Original Sin 2 has the GM mode, which I know that you, Adam, have played around with a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
One of the members of this other role-playing group built a campaign in the GM mode, and they did a one-shot, but only managed to get through like the first part. So we're using the same one that he already built to try and get through the whole story. It's with a couple people I haven't played games with before or knew about before or ever watched before. So like learning, the first session was mostly learning like how we all fit together. When we were building characters, there was like, okay, so one of you has to be related to this kid because this kid is the person that we're trying to go find like a cure for or whatever. And nobody else in the group was like building themselves to be related to this kid. So I was just like, okay, like my character is like, he's my ward or whatever. And so the first session was very kind of like me centric, and I felt a little like weird about that. But at the same time, like the whole setup is about this kid who is related to me. Towards the end of it, we definitely got more of a group dynamic. The other thing is, like, I've played like 100 hours of Divinity, and the other people in this group haven't played any of it at all. So when it comes, we're using the in-game combat systems, which are really, really cool. And then the game has dice rolling mechanics for social stuff. You have stats in the game. And so we've kind of homebrewed a way to turn those stats into pluses or minuses on the D20 roll.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's been really fun, and I would like to see, like, the one thing, and I think we've talked about this, Adam, in terms of like the GM mode being more usable for more people, is I would love to see a way for there to be pre-made community content uploaded, because the amount of time that you have to put into creating a campaign makes it nigh impossible for there to be any kind of improvisation. Because if your NPC is interesting and your characters decide that they want to go after this guy instead of the quest that you had already set up, then it's like, okay, well, we can't do that because it'll take me like an hour to set up that scene.
Yeah.
That
Whereas if there were,
I think,
like,
I think a lot of
maps like in Roll20.
Yeah, I think a lot of like more traditional Dungeons and Dragons GMs run their game that way, where there is an assumed table behavior of like, we can do anything as long as we don't too badly violate the stuff that the GM has planned.
I mean that was how I ran my stuff, because I'm not as good at pulling things from tables or setting up a random thing. It was very much like, the world is open and I have designed quite a lot of it. But if you go a certain way, I don't have anything. And I'm going to be honest with you at the table, I don't have anything over there,
Please do not go out of bounds.
I used to do, yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things, and like Roll20 puts their maps and packs and stuff, like those are things that you purchase. And obviously, like in that instance as well, you have to build up a library in a similar way to what you would need to do to make the Divinity game GM mode more usable.
Right, a marketplace of that kind of stuff.
But if that were done, it would be so fucking cool. Like having actual like 3D, like movable objects, like beautiful graphics. I love Divinity, the game. So seeing it turned into something that could be usable for...
I'm gonna be a curmudgeonly old D&D nerd and be like, the best graphics are the ones in your mind, Blue Jay.
Yeah, but people have used miniatures and like set pieces forever.
It's true.
This is just a digital version of that.
Tomorrow when we play Tomb of Annihilation, I'll try to describe it more like a video game. So Azaka comes running over to you, but she gets stuck on a tree and spins around in circles a bunch of times, and she can't seem to get to you, and she keeps repeating the same voice line over and over and over.
But she has really sick 4K texture.
So speaking of random role playing in video games, I've been role playing on a Neverwinter Nights server.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
Throwback. Yeah, some Ravenloft shit. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Anyway,
nice. Oh man, Neverwinter. Yeah, I can see to your point, Blue Jay. I can see the appeal of when it works. Like it like I've watched you play some Divinity, and it's a cool engine. There's some really cool stuff going on there. But yeah, I think it's interesting watching people try to bridge that gap between video game and role playing game. I think the more of that happens, the cooler these things are going to get to be.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you in terms of like there will never cease to be a place where it's you and other people and it's all here, and like that's great, and it creates an innate flexibility that no set of miniatures or like 2D or 3D map will ever be able to imitate. But
someday our Disney Bezos overlords will create for us a system of mind link technology where I can just think a thing and y'all will be able to see it.
I just want a holodeck. Like, we don't have to like think. I'll have the computer generate it for me.
You need the little thing from Blade Runner, the like.
You know that a holodeck is just LARPing, right?
Well, yeah, but it's LARPing, and you can be like, you know what, computer, can you up the temperature by like 2 degrees? And it does.
I didn't say it wasn't really good LARPing.
It is true though. Like in on the Enterprise, there's some banging D&D 400th edition groups. Like you just know. You know that shit.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in space, traveling in space. Like you don't travel at the speed of light. It takes a long fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they gloss over that stuff. Only the problem is if you have a campaign on one planet and you leave and you come back, your campaign has been going for 100 years because relativity. So it's difficult to keep track of these things. Still, in the meantime, we'll all just have to use our imaginations together.
I don't want to.
All right. Well, good show. Thanks for coming. I don't feel.
Dave just gets up and just goes. Lies down on his bed and just goes to sleep.
I don't feel like using my imagination today. We're done. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah.
So let's play. You want to play some Burning Wheel? Should we do that?
Yeah,
we got a lot of shit to accomplish, and even 5 hours never seems like enough. So let's get started with beliefs, instincts, and traits. Let's start with, as we usually do. Let's start with Agatha, unless you need. Do you want some more time?
Give me a minute here.
Okay. All right. We'll start with Joy.
You say as we usually do, and then not say me.
Yeah,
really?
well, because I thought because you had said I was gonna see if you want first. You want to go first because you said before we started you're like I need to write some beliefs.
It's fine. I feel a little subverted here, but it's fine.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay.
So my beliefs are. Agatha has disappeared, but I don't think she's gone entirely. I'll find her and make sure she follows through on helping me. I will make a name for myself outside the lost court. Is what I've dubbed it. I'll make a friend at the local tavern, wherever that is.
Yeah.
I will gain Miro's protection by revealing my prophetic dreams. Is still in there. Somehow. Instincts, when anyone speaks of God, laugh. Always keep an eye for no one can see it. Confront every boast with an ugly truth. And my traits are off-kilter, scapegoat, ashen, eldritch. Die traits are broken, numb, dreamer, and lame. And call-on traits are aura of innocence, keen taste, and the fool.
Excellent. Yeah. So you're where did we leave off with you after the
I was
awkward
chasing Amelia.
Yeah, after the awkward knife and crossbow exchange.
I imagine that the scene ended with like a quick fistcuff scuffle between Emilio and Joy, and then both of them going their separate ways.
Right, okay.
Things where it's like, we threw deadly weapons at each other, and why are we fighting? And it's cold, and fuck you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, cool. All right, that sounds good. Miro and Alessandra, either of you can go next. The two of you will have a scene together. With the king at the beginning of this session, probably. But Alessandra, do you have beliefs ready? You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I changed up all of my beliefs.
Nice.
Because I watched a lot of people freeze to death. Belief 1 is Reza has gone one step too far. I got rid of his brother, and I can get rid of him too. I must seek the jester. Belief 2 is thinking I may have lost the king. I realize the true extent of my feelings. I will seek to remain by his side. That we are together is what matters, not how. And the queen is incapacitated and the king is falling apart. I will make sure the kingdom survives this catastrophe. I will recruit the queen's circle to take over administration of the kingdom.
I love how all it took to kick Alessandra into high gear was to have an angel supernaturally freeze basically everyone in the castle.
Yeah.
Sometimes things happen that just change your perspective.
So simple,
on the world. Yeah.
Just watch everyone in a circle around you frozen to death like human icicles.
I mean, I think you're all dead, basically.
Yep. Yeah, Joy has abandoned the castle, which makes sense. Yeah.
Scared about me.
Okay.
My instincts are still, when I meet someone new, ingratiate myself to them, always redirect violence away from my person, and always keep an ear open for gossip at court, although who knows.
Do you want to just change that last one to always keep an ear open for gossip?
Yeah, because, this place is wrecked. I wouldn't come back here. Fuck. Traits are your lordship, ambitious, well-dressed, independent, cosmopolitan, raven-haired, and jealous. Mark of privilege, and rapier wit.
Excellent. I like it. Good stuff. All right, Brother Miro.
All right. I don't think we went far enough in finding out what fucked up shit is going on. So all of my beliefs are finding out more things. So we will continue on the path of people in YouTube comments getting incredibly upset that bad things always happen to other people because of Miro's failed rolls. And I want fate.
It's unequivocally correct.
I want fate for it as well. I also want that. So we're going to keep. I cannot allow my vision of the future come to pass. Reza, Agatha, and their heretic companions must be stopped. I'll find out what the witch is plotting, just in case I decide to go there. The Angel of Winter saw fit to put the castle in stasis. I must ascertain what led to its divine will being imposed in the first place.
I love that your response. So Alessandro's response is like, everything is horrible and I need to do something about this. And your response is, curious. I wonder why.
Yeah. As a servant of the angels, I must improve the qualities of my soul to serve as a better conduit for their energies. Giving boons and aid through my faith and sorcery is a way to help others while improving myself.
Mm-hmm.
And God is dead, but the angels are not. I must learn the state of heaven and find who is answering my prayers.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Because I remember very specifically the Angel of Winter saying, Father cannot hear you, but I am here. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Excellent. Okay. I like it. That's a good one. All right. And your instincts?
My instincts are always challenge blasphemy or sin. We decided to change that up.
Mm-hmm.
It is my duty as a priest to impart my knowledge and comfort to others. Always offer a soothing platitude.
Mm-hmm.
And never ignore a potential sign of the angel's holy machinations.
Excellent. And your traits?
My traits are demented, mad, violent, pious, tough, fur, messianic, believer, faithful, gifted, tonsured, vested, and zealot.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Agatha of the Dark Woods.
Speaking.
What are your beliefs?
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Um,
New form. Who dis?
Agatha of the Dark Wolves.
It is my duty to preserve the natural order and end this cursed winter, but I cannot do it alone. I'll return to the Covens and find my sisters. And the kingdom withers in winter and creates opportunity for the wolf. I will haunt this kingdom and frighten the common folk. And an empty belief that I'm not sure what I want to do with it. I got to see where the winds take me today, because things could get weird. It could either be about, okay, so I will preview what my two thinkings are on this, which is either I will have an opportunity to end my curse, or I will need to like fuck off into the woods forever and therefore be kind of okay with being a wolf.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about this wolf situation vis-a-vis the rest of the world.
Yeah, maybe being a wolf's the right thing. And so
being a human sucks right now.
I will keep my belief, always cover my tracks.
I will say this, if we get to the point where there is like downtime and Agatha has been like, I will embrace the way of the wolf or whatever, we can more properly like rebuild your character as like a wolf, basically, if that's where you end up.
It's real tempting.
You've got both directions here that you could go in, so. But remember, the curse is true no matter what. So even if Agatha is like, I embrace the heart of the wolf, and somebody down the line sees this like mad brood wolf, gray of fur in like 20 years, is like, Agatha, bam, back to being an old lady.
Whatever. I was a sick ass old lady.
It's true. Yeah. What are your instincts?
38 isn't old. Okay, very young.
Yes.
Always cover my tracks and choose my path carefully when near villages, which is a very wolfy instinct.
Yeah.
Never put something back in the wrong place, and when making my way in the woods, always forage.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Okay. And your traits?
And my traits are always in the way, well-traveled, spooky, inscrutable, respectable women, lupine, very much lupine.
Definitely taking on a new tone there. Yep.
Vindictive, misunderstood, fey-blooded, blind, gifted, spirit familiar, essence of earth, unsteady, rat speak, and forked tongue.
Cool. I like that a bunch of these have slightly different interpretations, like misunderstood. Now that you're a wolf,
it's just like layered on it. Yeah, really nicely. It's good.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's begin today's episode with I think the only scene really that we need to work out that is like immediate, right? The only scene that's in the current time, because everyone else, like Joy and Agatha, have some room for time bending. So let's do this scene, and then if we want to like take some time and maybe do some more practicing or whatever, see if some time passes, we can do that. But let's figure out what's going on in the castle. So we fade in first on one of those kind of like remember what happened last time shots of the city at night, the various fires burning in people's windows, the snow, always the snow drifting down from the slate gray sky, the moon obscured from view, and in the background the castle, always the castle. And as we get closer to it, we realize that on top of and in addition to its usual sloped slate roofs and stone walls, there is on much of it ice hanging from windowsills, blocking barred windows and doors, filling the gap between stones. And the castle, it's not like a big block of ice, but it is certainly very much frozen. And so we crossfade between this external sort of night shot of the castle to the interior of the castle, and I think that we pan past a very frustrated-looking lady protector, though she hides it well. She's good at hiding her emotions. That's one of her many skills. She has a stern look on her face, but we can see a slight frustrated flush to her cheeks. Maybe she's got a bit of a snarl in her top lip. She's not happy, but we'll find out more about that momentarily. We fade in on the room inside, which is somewhere between, like, we haven't really talked about like funeral rites in this kingdom, but I imagine there is. This is a somber land, and I imagine that there is a sort of mourning period that happens when someone dies, where people just they're allowed to just kind of like be sad about it. There is a period of time. And we talked about like the seasons changing after the death of a spouse, before marriage, that kind of thing. This chamber seems to have that feel of being funereal. There is a stone dais. It maybe is a like a repurposed chapel or something like that. Actually, I think it definitely is. I think that it's a room. It's a room that would normally be used for like minor religious stuff. The king would go to the cathedral to have anything important done, like the naming of a child or a wedding. But this is like a little personal chapel in the castle somewhere. And on its dais is the queen, and she is, as far as we can tell, yet locked in eternal slumber. Though the blanket that covered her and the cloth she lay upon is disheveled. Her hair spills down the side of the dais, and she has one pale arm kind of hanging from the dais as she's been disturbed. And we know, if we watched last episode, that she woke briefly, spouted some religious nonsense, and then fell back asleep when the thing that the magus was chaining in the castle awoke and was freed. But she's now she's fallen back into Agatha's witch slumber. In the room, I guess just kind of walking into the room, are the Lady Alessandra Corvide, Brother Miro, and His Highness, our King of Carpathia, Tomas Dragomir Larix. So, Alessandra, you and Miro came here to speak with the king. You came to make sure the king was all right, and it's hard to say. All right is a complex.
I want to, like, as a step back, because during our previous time skip, we made the point that I was with the king a lot.
Yes.
And I kind of want to like have an idea of what Alessandra was seeing in terms of like, he's definitely fallen on hard times and he's super like grief stricken and like upset. And I just want to maybe know from your perspective in terms of like his was it gradual? Has he been like this the whole time and I was just ignoring it? Or like, does he put on a different face when we're together? Like, in what ways have I been perceiving this like grief and loss in him? Because we spend a lot of time together.
I mean, he was. I suppose that's the question, right? How much of that time do you spend talking? Like, when you're together, I don't know. Like your relationship with the king, we haven't been able to see much of it, and I don't know. Like my understanding of Alessandra as a person, she does not strike me as the kind of person people confide in usually.
No, like I don't think that that's a thing, but like at the same time, in the scenes that we have had, Alessandra was always kind of pushing for that level of intimacy, in terms of like, tell me that you care about me, like tell me like that she tried to make a role to be like, aren't you jealous that
Right.
I have to get married to someone else? She tried to make a role to be like,
Yeah, I remember.
tell me good things about me and bad things about the queen. Like, so there is some talking involved, most of which up to this point have been like manipulation.
Sure.
But also I feel like the way I've been leaning and the way I've been like feeling it played is like Alessandra has been trying to manipulate the king into giving her what she wants, but like what she wants is also partially like, you're mine. Like I want you. I also want power. But like,
so here's the thing. He would have just been saying whatever you want to hear. But you wouldn't have any insight into whether he like believes it or not.
But like you described him like physically, like actually effectively.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. So he was angry at first about what was going on. He would talk about how he was, he had people hunting for the witch that did this. He took the attack on the queen as being an attack on him and on the kingdom and on all of the goodly folk of Carpathia, right? Like this horrible witch has done this terrible thing to us. He would refer to that way, meaning both himself and Sophia and the queen, but also you and all the other people of Carpathia, right? It was an affront, and he was angry about that. And then he's just like getting worn down, like you said. And at this point, I think, you've watched him over the few months just kind of like crumble a little bit. You don't see him when you're not with him, right? You don't spend a lot of time like hanging out at court because you were doing your own thing. But yeah, I mean, he has all of the pressure of maintaining the kingdom and is getting worse and worse at it. The kingdom is falling apart because the king can't like rule. He hasn't been doing a great job because he's falling apart emotionally.
And I feel like there was probably a part of the like, what was it, a month of seduction tests? Like there was a part of that which was like, this is the way that I know to try and like make you stop looking sad. Like stop doing that. Like I'm gonna seduce you and then you'll be fine. Like, and obviously it didn't really work out. So I feel like Alessandra, in like coming into this situation, is one, like she just recently had the shock of like, holy shit, everyone's like dead around me. Like, is this person that I didn't really realize that I actually cared about more than just like, I think it was, she knew that she liked him or else she wouldn't spend as much time with him. He wasn't someone like Reza who she actively was just like, you're gross, go away.
Sure.
But at the same time, I don't think that she fully allowed herself to recognize that it was like, she doesn't really like people. She doesn't have close relationships. And so regardless of the extent to which this is close, like it's probably the closest relationship she has.
Sure.
And so like there was that realization. And then there was also like, you come into the room and after seeing that like shocking display, like seeing also this person that she's been spending a lot of time with and recognizing from a new perspective that he looks like shit.
So yeah, I mean, let's see some of that in play, right? Rather than talking around it.
Okay.
I think the thing too is like, so Miro, you see the king. You and Nelson see the king, and he doesn't look like garbage, right? He's still the king, and he still carries himself with a noble countenance. But you can see that he is strained. You can see that he's reached a point of despair. He's sort of lost the ability to focus on like caring for himself. He spends a lot of time here or talking to the Magus. He is obviously a man unmoored. There is no like the light of God has left his eyes, and he heard familiar voices and came to the door and told his guard to step aside and let you in. And now you're in this chamber with the king. The door is open, I think. So anything that you say, the Lady Protector will hear, but the king doesn't seem to care about that. He's brought you into the room and then immediately sort of turns his back on the two of you and walks over to the queen and takes her hand and places it like back up on her chest with her other hand, and then is just standing kind of like touching her face and like looking down at her. What do you do? I mean, either of you.
I mean, for Alessandra, like all of that manifests and she comes into the room and she sees the king like loving his wife, and she just kind of like stops at the door and is like trying to swallow that like jealousy, right? Because I mean, she doesn't spend time with the two of them together. She very on purpose didn't before, but like now it's like a smack in the face, his grief. Yeah. And so she's standing at the door and kind of just like, I was gonna check on you, but obviously you're fine, and now I'm.
So Miro, Alessandra hesitates at the door. You're in the room. Do you take the initiative? Do you say something?
Yeah, absolutely. I see the king in an obvious state of like confusion and despair, and not really understanding, I suppose, the significance of everything going on in the situation. I mean, I know the queen is cursed or whatever, but before I can do anything about that, it's my duty to try and make him feel better. So he'll be more amenable to conversation and letting me do weird magic.
I'm already looking up soothing platitudes as we speak. So what do you say? The king is fraught at he's trapped. He cannot properly mourn his queen because she's not actually dead. And his kingdom crumbles around him. He is aware of his own weakness. He's a man bereft. What does Miro say to make him feel better?
My Lord King, there is much to be despairing of in these times, but recently, just now, these few minutes past, I trust you as a man of faith, as a man of power, to share with you this great news I have, that I have received a vision, that there is still evidence of the kingdom of heaven at work in this land. And I believe that with their what's the word I want? Intercession in this, we might yet be saved.
Right, so you're just like, yeah, don't worry, there's God is still with us, even though everything seems terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Well, not God specifically. He's
right.
starting to understand that there's a slight distinction going on, but he doesn't quite understand it.
Right, the will of God, if not God themselves. Okay. Yeah. So to soothe the king, it is an obstacle 6 soothing platitudes test. What forks would you like to
I cannot fork, for I have not finished opening the skill.
So it's an ob 12 soothing platitude.
Well,
yes.
What's the failure consequence?
So soothing. I mean, I think that you're caught between two of His Highness's traits, right? You are appealing to his piety, but he is also a violent man. So I think that in failing, you will attempt to provoke one and instead elicit the other.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I would be betraying myself not to try, and the teachings I've been taught.
It's an instinct, and you know this is a mistake. So
you did pretty good.
Bad.
You get 2 6s. You want to roll a fate point?
Yeah, fuck it. That's points on will.
Yeah, so it's points on will, exactly. Yeah. And you got a lot of fate, so.
Doodaloo.
Oh my god, another 6. Fucking go for it. Do it.
Oh,
7.
shit!
Let's go. 7.
I thought you were gonna go all the way.
I mean, that's pretty fucking good. What, 5,
amazing.
6, 7, 7 successes on 6 dice?
That was amazing.
It's pretty good. Nice work. All
I
right,
can see platitudes.
so you try, and so you talk to him, and he's not looking at you. He's just kind of like caressing the pale cheek of his queen. And Alessandro, you're at the door, and Miro, you're a little closer, and he stops, and you can see his shoulders kind of go slack, and he turns slowly, and you can see that a sort of wolfish snarl has taken over his face, and he looks at you, Miro, and he says to you, "How can you speak of heaven when we are so clearly abandoned by it?" And he like takes a step forward towards you, and I think he goes to, like, grab your frock, and what do you do? Do you try to back away, or do you just let him grab you?
No, I always challenge blasphemy.
Oh, you're gonna double down on His Royal Highness.
Oh, good.
My king, how can you say such a thing? In this place that we are in, I see the statues, I see the tapestries on the wall. That you would so brazenly speak of heaven's abandonment when there is in fact an example of their providence before you. For was I not clothed in fur to withstand this harsh winter? Please, there is much to be sad, much to be angry about. But together we can make this change. I believe it.
So I think part way through that, right? Because this sounds just like another soothing platitude, which you already failed to do. So
I think it's a persuade, but I'm already failing. It was more flavor.
Yeah. So I mean, I think at this point you can't really persuade him not to be angry. But yeah, like I think he grabs you, and he gets a handful of both your frock and your fur, right? There's like he basically is like pulling your hair. He pulls you towards him, and he snarls, and he says this place, this room, these trappings are a sham. God is dead and heaven has abandoned us. And he looks back and he says, otherwise, how would he have allowed this to happen? And he I think he looks down at the floor, and a piece of his like black hair falls into his face, and he says, I want nothing to do with a God that would allow this to happen. And he means like his wife, not anything else.
I feel like there's like a part of this where the king isn't like, he's from a violent culture, but I don't think that Alessandro has ever been around for him to like be violent with. That's one of the reasons why she like prefers his company over like the other company of men. And so there's a little bit where she's like, the fuck is wrong with you? And I wanted to like almost be like she would interject, And like, I don't know how much she likes Miro, but I feel like this is and I don't know how much she likes what Miro is saying, but I feel like this is an instance where it's just like, you're not being yourself. Like, what has gotten into you?
I mean, what do you say?
I think it would be like, she takes, in reflection with the half step back she took from Reza, she takes like a half step forward towards the king and Miro. And like, she looks at him confused and she says, Tomas, what are you doing? Like, this man, we came here to make sure that you were all right. And there's that, like, she looks at him and like narrows her eyes and she says, you don't think that you are.
So what reaction do you, are you trying to elicit a reaction from him in particular or try to change his behavior?
I don't know if, like, I think it's more like she's trying to be like, what is up with you?
Sure. Okay. So he looks at you and he says, why have you brought this priest here to me, Alessandra?
I did not bring him. He came. He was as concerned for you as I. Well, and there's this whole like...
He sighs and he shakes his head and he says, even now, even from his grave, God laughs at me to bring before me a man of piety and the source of my sin. And he shakes his head and he says, I'm cursed. This kingdom is cursed. And he turns his back on both of you to like stare lovingly at his wife.
My king, it is never too late to seek repentance. If there is indeed sin which you believe to be causing your misfortune, then I am here to hear of it, to absolve you. I still have this power as a priest.
Can I like interrupt you? Dave, I just feel like Alessandra would like, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're like doing your whole like priestly, like, we can work on this and blah, blah, blah. And Alessandra is like taken aback by him being like, you're the cause of, like, you're my sin and you're the reason why this is all happening. And
I mean, I don't know that he said that. He just said that God has abandoned him and that it's a joke that now he's faced with like a pious man and his like, yeah, and you.
Yeah. And so Alessandra like takes a second, Miro's spouting his nonsense, and then she's like, is that really all you see me as? A sin, a mistake.
He turns to look at you and says, no mistake, my lady, but weakness, for which I am certainly being punished. The witch was sent to us by the devil, I'm certain of it, but it was I, my sin, our sin that let her do this, that brought winter down upon this kingdom, that brought ruin, and you can see his eyes are starting to like tear up, that brought ruin to Carpathia.
These are the actions of men, not gods. Whatever, like, what we have done and the consequences of it are the consequences of choices that we made, not something God has thrown down upon us.
Is that true, Miro?
I mean, she's not a believer.
No, of course. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be saying this. I'm curious because basically what you're saying is like, take responsibility for your shit and like, it's not about that, but you're standing next to a person who believes that everything is God's will and the will of heaven.
There's that on one hand, and on the other hand, is actual evidence that it is my fault.
Well, no, but it isn't though. Like, because you you didn't. It's not like, okay, so if Miro knocks a glass off a table and the glass breaks, that's Miro's fault. If Miro prays and an angel knocks the glass off the table, that's not really your fault.
I mean, you still asked for it.
Well, but remember, we know that it's Dave making a failed roll that caused some of this bad shit, but Miro, I don't think, would think like that it's a person's fault, right? Like that. I just want to make that distinction.
Yes.
Let's not let our idea of the mechanics effect play too much.
What I'm currently thinking about is whether this is meant to be a secret, and if it is,
I mean, it just kind of like he just bust out with it, so you wouldn't have known before.
I can bring comfort to a suffering man by taking some of the weight of responsibility for the kingdom off his shoulders by telling him what happened. So before I tell him, because he's not going to want to hear this, I say a very quick prayer to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to grant myself a boon.
Mm-hmm.
The boon will be to open-end my suasion skill.
Okay.
So I'm just going to do a quick routine faith test.
Okay. And what are the? I mean, you can roll and then tell me the words. What are the words of your prayer? Right. What do you say?
Yeah. Let's see. How am I doing with persona? Is it more important to get it on this than it is to get it on the next one? No, I'll probably just end up using that. Yes, I succeed on the spell.
Okay.
Thanks, the game. So the prayer is, Dear God in heaven, allow me to do my duty as a priest, and let this man here, through me, the truth of the will of heaven, to absolve him of the guilt, the responsibility he feels for his sinful actions on earth, and let him be forgiven for his misdeeds.
Okay. So while Miro is muttering this prayer to himself, Alessandra, you have time for a sentence or two more with the king.
Does he not like respond to the whole like these are the actions of men and like your like actions and
yeah, so you say that, and he says, was this unnatural winter the act of man? Is this curse? And he gestures to his wife. The act of men? He shakes his head. No, the will of power is greater than I.
You said yourself that this curse was laid by the witch.
I,
a person.
A servant of the adversary, and one who has eluded our grasp, gone now into the woods.
I feel like there's this whole I'm trying to figure out. I don't think that she's not had this kind of discussion with him before.
Sure. Yeah.
And so she's like, so this whole time you've just been digging at yourself because you feel like all of this is the consequence of your misdeeds. Yeah, and I think that she looks at him strangely and she's like, you truly think that all of this is some fault of yours?
He nods, and he says, the crown is a symbol of my covenant with heaven, and I've tarnished it.
Symbols do not feed people. Symbols do not run fleeing into the woods. This is strange, Tomas. You have not been like this before now. Not to me.
So Miro, you've finished your muttered prayer.
Yep. The Lady Alessandra is right. The fault of this is not entirely your own, my king. There have been forces at work since the death of our Lord God, his passing away, his gaze not present on the kingdom, that perhaps let these forces, this agent, this witch, remain where she should not be. But if you confess your sins now, they will be absolved, and I can teach you what I know of the matters of heaven in this time, for I have been witness to what caused this winter, though I know not why. Perhaps we can work together to right the wrongs against your beloved wife, the queen,
So
capturing this witch.
So what you're saying, you're offering here is like admit all the bad things that you did, and then with a pure conscience, I will help you fix this.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thoughts, Alessandra?
I mean, like, this is weird religious bullshit.
Right, but what Miro wants is for the king to say unequivocally, like, I have been doing the bad illegal thing with Lady Corvidae.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Which, like, legally would put Miro in a position to, if he chose to, make that information public, have both of you in some, like, you and the king in some very bad positions, right? Like, it's a crime against God to like break the covenant that he swore with his wife. Like, it's very bad, this thing he's been doing.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess like part of that is like I've probably recognized at least the legal portion of it. And I think Alessandra is just like, who is this man to you that you would put yourself at his mercy? If I remember correctly, he's been thrown out of your court several times. He cannot promise you absolution, and no man can end winter. It is a season and it will pass.
All right. Well, I mean, what I think here is there's like a versus test between the two of you to see who gets what the king does here.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yes. So I think there is still the like convincing the king to do a thing, and then there's also like you opposing each other as like who you should listen to here, because the two things that could happen here are that he's like, what do we need this priest for? Like, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, like I wonder if maybe this is just a duel of wits between the two of you over what the king decides to do, because he could go either way, I think, in this situation. And I feel like the two of you are at opposition enough that there could be some compromise rather than just doing a single test.
Yeah, I'm happy about that.
Blue Jay, what do you think? Is there enough? I feel like there's enough at stake here to call for it.
I mean, yeah, it's like her entire relationship with the king.
I mean, I don't think your relationship with him will necessarily change as a result of this, unless later Miro.
If he confesses his sin and then continues with it, it's like that doesn't make any sense at all.
Isn't that why we confess our sins?
Yeah, exactly.
So
he wants to be absolved, but it doesn't mean he won't keep doing it. Like, basically, what's at stake here is that unless Dave decides to make his position like both tell me what you did and then stop doing it, you can just be like, cool, I make a seduce test to get him to like come back to me, because that doesn't sound like what Dave wants, right? Yeah, like this duel of wits isn't about your relationship with the king. It's about the king's relationship with God and the two of you kind of like pushing him in various directions.
Well, my concern is the king's relationship with Alessandra.
Sure.
And not being like killed for adultery.
Yeah, I think it's certainly enough to warrant.
So what do I want from this though? Like,
I mean, that's a good question. What do you want? If you win, if you convince the king, like, what would that look like?
I just think, I don't know, like for me, it's just I don't want the negative thing. Like I don't want the like, I don't want to, like you were saying, how Mira would then have the power to like just be like, okay, yeah, these two people have been like against the rules of God, and also they should probably be like tried for that or whatever.
So if you want to go real big on this, like you are in a position where the king could tell Miro, like, fine, I don't want to sin anymore. Marry me to Lady Alessandra. Like this, there's a lot at stake here in terms of like he's in a position of vulnerability. He has lots of power. Miro is a priest. There's a lot going on. So I mean, look to your beliefs, right? What do you want?
Just get the king to forsake God forever. Just be like, yeah.
That's a thing you could do, right? To be like, honey, God is dead. You don't have to be absolved for your sins. They're not sins anymore.
I mean, I understand how mechanically it makes sense for this to be a duel of wits. I'm just not exactly sure the like stakes for Alessandra, except for not wanting the negative. Like I don't know what her body of argument would be.
I guess the thing like that comes to my mind, at least, Blue Jay, would be like, if this is going to be a fight, you know, in terms of a duel of wits, then like aim high. You know what I mean? You want the king's undivided attention. You want him to come with you. You want him to go to your estate and set up a new government from there. Like that's a thing you could argue for right now. You want to convince the king that God is bad and we should worship the adversary, for the adversary is the true power in the universe. Then you can argue that point too.
Totally.
You know, like it just comes down to where do you want to go, and then objectively make that your point, and then argue that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's fine.
Okay, well, why don't we take a break here, and then we'll come back and check in on Joy and Agatha. That'll give you guys some time to think about what you want your duel of wits to be about, and then we'll come back to that. Does that sound good? Okay. Cool. All right. Stick around. We got lots more Roll20 Presents The Burning Wheel when we come back.